aware, New South Wales is in the midst of an extreme weather event, and we know already that we've had literally hundreds of people who've had to evacuate. There are 9 evacuations set up already in New South Wales, 7 on the mid-north coast and 2 in the Hunter region, so 9 evacuation centres already. The concerning aspect about the weather conditions we're experiencing is the last time we suffered major floods in New South Wales, the weather event passed within 2 or 3 days. Unfortunately, this will be a deep-seated extreme weather event. It's unlikely the rain will stop until towards the end of next week, so Thursday or Friday. Of course, we hope that those predictions are wrong, but the best predictions we have is this will be a prolonged weather event. And concerningly this morning, as many of you may be aware, in Chester Hill we also experienced an unexpected mini tornado which exacerbated the weather conditions, which caused a lot of damage in that region. Also, as you're aware, the Warragamba Dam and the potential for spillover is also of concern, and I just received a briefing from our SES experts in relation to a potential for a 1 in 5, a 1 in 10 or a 1 in 20 event. So all 3 scenarios are being planned for. And with that, can I please say in particular at this stage to residents of the mid-north coast, residents of the Hunter and also residents of the Central Coast and in metropolitan Sydney and in the catchment of the Warragamba Dam, please be on high alert. There'll be reports we'll be receiving around this time and also at 6 p.m, which will determine which of those communities will need to be evacuated. So if you do live in any of the regions which we'll mention during this news conference, please be on high alert. Please keep monitoring the websites that are available, and please make sure that if you are asked to evacuate, you do so immediately. The window for evacuation is often not a big one, depending on where you live. And some communities already have been advised to stock up and to stay home within that window where they could potentially be cut off. So I hate to say this again to all of our citizens of this state, but it's not going to be an easy week for us. But I know that no matter what comes our way, we'll be able to deal with it. I want to thank Commissioner York and everybody in the SES who've already responded to 4,000 call-outs, 500 direct flood rescues. And I also want to thank all the agencies which are supporting the SES. New South Wales proudly works in a very coordinated way. I want to thank the RFS, Fire and Rescue, the police, and every other agency that stood up to support the SES. We're one team and it's all hands on deck. And I know that there are forces and resources ready on the ground. But regrettably, this will be a prolonged event and none of us are out of the woods. Whilst the storm front is moving south, it's still going to be prolonged and the rain may not stop till Thursday or Friday. And of course, we'll make sure that we provide as much information as possible to the community. But the most critical thing at this stage is to please respond to potential evacuation orders. The SES is doing their best to be able to predict what might happen in the next few hours. And of course, we want to avoid anybody having to be evacuated in the dark. It's much better for it to occur in daylight hours, and so we just ask everybody to be alert and to listen to the various advice you're receiving. And for everybody else who isn't living in a directly impacted area, please don't move around unless you have to. Very dangerous conditions. Whatever you do, do not drive through those floodwaters. Make sure you put safety first. It is not a time to be out and about, unfortunately. So just ask everybody to be extra cautious and to make sure you're monitoring the evacuation orders, in particular if you live in those areas that we've been mentioning. I'll now ask Minister Elliott to say a few words, and then Commissioner York will provide the most recent update that we have.
Thank you, Premier. We can't control the weather, but we can control our behaviour. So 500 flood rescues over the course of this operation so far is just completely unacceptable. That's 500 specialist SES crews that have put their lives at risk because people have not heeded the warnings. And if the trajectory is correct, and if we keep going down this line, we're going to be looking at over 2,000 flood rescues before Wednesday, when the majority of the storm should conclude. So the message is very, very clear. Do not drive through flood waters. Do not drive over water that is covering a road. And it just appears that every time we get that message out, within hours there's another half a dozen flood rescues. My thanks to, like the Premier, to the 1,000 SES volunteers who are out there today. And I think it's very important for the community to know the SES are volunteers. So please do not give them grief if they can't turn up straight away. They are putting their lives at risk with no thought of reward or recognition to save yours. They are extremely well trained, they are extremely professional, and we have 10,000 of them available in this state with 1,000 on operations at the moment. They're supplemented, of course, by 600 RFS volunteers, so we've got nearly 2,000 volunteers with the other agencies all up. Can I thank the men and women of New South Wales Police who have provided some great support to our volunteer agencies, and Fire and Rescue have over 100 trucks on operations as well. It is very, very important that you monitor the SES website and the evacuation warnings. It's no good preparing to evacuate after you've already received an evacuation warning. Evacuation warnings are there to make sure that you are prepared. And the worst case scenario is that a warning comes after dark. Please make sure that you're prepared, particularly those people around the Nepean River where we're looking at seeing flood warnings continue. Can I conclude by making sure that everybody restricts the number of trips they make over the next 4 days, the next 3 or 4 days. If you don't need to go anywhere, don't do it. This is not the type of weather that you want to unnecessarily be moving around Sydney, and particularly moving around regional New South Wales, because it will just put more pressure on our emergency services in the likely event that you require their assistance. I'll now hand over to the Commissioner.
Thank you. So Thursday night was really the commencement of this storm event up north at Mid-North Coast. We've been very active in responding to people's requests. The forecast from the Bureau of Meteorology is this heavy rains will continue towards the end of this week. Up north in the Mid-North Coast, we have done a lot of flood rescues, but a lot of homes have been isolated. We had a surge of requests for assistance yesterday and last night with people having to evacuate on their roofs. So I asked the community to listen to our warnings, listen to the information, have a look at the bomb site, the live traffic site and the SES website for up-to-date information about your area so that you can plan. I would rather people plan and feel that it was a wasted effort than find that their home goods are destroyed or their shop is destroyed because they didn't think that this flood event was going to affect them. A lot of people do live in the low-lying areas of New South Wales, and they are particularly at risk during this event. As I said, this event, it is a slow-moving event, and that's why it is of such risk. Often events will rain, will pass through, the rivers will peak and then start to ebb away. That is not the circumstances in this event. The rain is continuing for a period of time, and as I said, towards the end of the week. There is still heavy rains on the Mid-North Coast and Central Coast and Hunter, and we're seeing that weather has affected the Sydney metropolitan area today. We're very much watching the Warragamba Dam and the Hawkesbury Nepean floodplain area, and particularly ask the people that live in those areas to be aware of the warnings that we put out today. There will be some warnings to get ready in those areas. And again, that is to give the community the longest time they can do to prepare or go to their relatives' houses or make other arrangements just in case they are affected by this storm event. It isn't going to finish today. The weather is forecast to go down into the Illawarra area, and some of those areas, particularly around the Goulburn township, are areas that will flow back into the Warragamba Dam, and so once the rain passes from here, the risk is not removed as well. So just a reminder, I have seen vision on the TV about people running through floodwaters, vehicles driving through floodwaters, vehicles up above their wheels. Can I say that once it gets to that level, there is every chance your vehicle will float away and you cannot control what will then happen, and you're putting your life and the other passengers at risk, as well as my volunteers and other emergency services that will go out and respond to your call. Please be patient. As the Minister said, when you make the calls, we are giving priority to those life-threatening calls first, but we will be there to help you, whether it's tarping your roof, whether it's removing trees. The SES and other emergency services organisations will respond to your call for help. And I remind the community, if it is life-threatening, please ring 000. And if it's about property damage or help to evacuate or roof damage, etc., it's 132 500 to the SES line, and we will send out the resources that are needed to assist you. So thank you very much.
Questions? Do you expect the rain to be just heavy over the next few days, or is this worse than that?
No, we expect this rain to continue on. We do have a lot of resources still up north in metropolitan area and down south. Because we are expecting more heavy rains, we are reaching out to other states to send some skilled personnel such as flood rescue technicians, because I know that our members are working very hard. It is a demanding period. They're working day and night. So we need to make sure that we've got some additional resources in the coming days to give them a bit of sand down area, but to make sure that we can respond to the community's needs because this weather is going to continue.
Could you maybe give us an example of some of the flood rescues that guys have carried out?
Well, certainly there have been a number of vehicles where they've become trapped in the floodwaters, and our boats have had to go out and rescue those people out of the vehicles. There have been people that have had to evacuate up onto their roofs, and we've had to send the boats out to assist them as well. So I again remind people not to drive through floodwaters, but also if you know that those low-lying roads near your house are at risk of going under, get out before you have to put yourself at risk. Go to someone else's house, do whatever you've got to do to make sure that you're not going through floodwaters to get away from your home and to be safe.
Commissioner, do we know what happened at Chester Hill? Obviously, quite a...
We do, unexpectedly, with this storm. Not only have we had the floods and the rain, a mini tornado, what we would call, has gone through Chester Hill. It affected about 3 streets within Chester Hill. Number of trees down, number of roofs off the tops of houses, and about 1,000 people have lost their power. So the emergency services went out. It happened just after 9 o'clock this morning. The crews are out there helping those communities and making sure that the community of Chester Hill is safe.
Is there potential for, or concern that something like that could happen over this prolonged period of time?
I hope it won't happen again. It is an unusual event, but it isn't that it can't happen again. So, but it is very difficult to prepare for such a spontaneous, significant weather event. So we just make sure that, as the Minister and both the Premier and I say, please don't go on the roads, because you could have been caught in that Chester Hill area just by passing through. If your trip is not urgent, please just remain where you are and remain safe.
I know there's been a number of releases around low-lying areas along the Hawkesbury, but is there any in particular town, like is it Windsor, North Richmond, that's kind of most at risk?
Any of the rivers that flow around the Hawkesbury area, the Georges River, Colo River, Nepean and Hawkesbury, are all affected because they're in the eye of this particular storm. And we're just waiting to get the intelligence that we need to be able to warn the community with enough time to be able to prepare, or, if necessary, to evacuate from those low-lying areas.
With this one might be for you, Sonia, the Warragam Dam that flowed this afternoon, was any water released from that earlier this week ahead of this weather event?
I was just briefly advised that some was released earlier this month, but I can't tell you exactly how much of that. I just received advice on that. But obviously we're asking everybody in that catchment to be on high alert. And the SES just advised me they're planning for 3 scenarios at this stage. We hope none of them eventuate, but it'll be a 1 in 5, 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 year event at this stage that all 3 scenarios are being planned for. We just asked some of those community members would have experienced what they're experiencing now 5 years ago. However, the concern is that it could be a worse event than what they've experienced in that period. And we just ask everybody to please follow any evacuation orders they may receive, and we ask people to be extra cautious. It will potentially impact hundreds and hundreds of further homes. We know already that so many people have been impacted, and unfortunately, as the Commissioner has said and as the weather experts have advised us, this is an event that's not going away in the next few days. The heavy rainfall will continue in parts of the state until at least Thursday or Friday is the best advice we have. And therefore all of us should be ready to perhaps change what we're doing, or be on alert, or unfortunately evacuate if that's what it takes. And if you're asked to do so, please follow the advice. Some residents, as I said, were given a few hours warning to stock up given their community might be cut off, especially in some communities around the mid-north coast, and some have stocked up and now are safe in their homes, but it does mean they may be cut off for a period of time. And we just ask everybody to please be alert, to listen to all the messages, all the evacuation orders that are being given, and also just to be patient. We're going to go through a difficult week, but I'm confident that if all of us follow the instructions, we can protect lives and protect as much property as possible. Okay, thanks everybody.
Guys.